It was one of those muggy May evenings in Austin, the kind where the rain pauses just long enough for the humidity to creep back and stick to your skin like regret. The sky hung heavy with lingering gray. But the streets were buzzing again, like the city was shaking off a long slumber. The pavement glistened, slick from the earlier downpour, each street lamp casting reflections off the surface like spotlights. I parked half a block from the Vine, a wine bar nestled in a row of old stone buildings with ivy snaking up the sides. From the outside, it glowed warm, welcoming, like the kind of place where laughter lingers on the walls long after the crowd leaves. Elise was in there. I sat in the rental car with the windows cracked and the engine off. The air was dense, still humming with the sharp scent of wet concrete and faint ozone. My shirt clung to my back. I didn't bother with the AC. I wanted to feel it, the unease. Part of me figured I had it coming. I should have been in Denver. My flight was booked for yesterday. Work. A pitch for a new account with a fintech startup. Something I'd prepped for 2 weeks. Then, out of nowhere, an email. No subject, just 2 lines, asterisk trip cancelled. Will follow up, asterisk that was it. No call, no sorry, no explanation, just quiet. So, I came home, but I didn't tell her I was back. I told myself it was because I didn't want to crash her party, that I'd surprise her after, maybe grab late-night tacos like we used to before everything got so polished. That's what I told myself, anyway. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Something had been off for months. I couldn't quite pin it down, but it sat heavy in my chest, like the way you sense a glass is chipped before it shatters. Small things started piling up. Elise stopped laughing the same way. Her laugh used to come from her whole body, loud and unfiltered. Now it was this clipped, careful thing, like she was performing. Her phone used to be an open book, left face up on the nightstand, buzzing with group chats and goofy texts from her brother. Lately, it was always face down. Then came the new passcode. Then facial recognition. And then came Pilates. Elise, 32, loathed mornings. She once said she'd rather wrestle a raccoon than get up before 8 a.m. But suddenly, she was up at 6, claiming Pilates centered her. She bought a whole wardrobe for it, leggings with bold prints, cropped tops with cutouts, an aesthetic that didn't feel like her. At first, I chalked it up to a phase. But then she started tossing around words like balance and cleanse, and Elliot says you have to embrace the burn, like she was quoting scripture. Elliot. He started as a name in a work story, this guy in my department, kind of mention. Then he became Witty Elliot, then Brilliant Elliot, then Elliot who just gets it. I tried not to let it gnaw at me. People have work friends. But the way her face brightened when she mentioned him, it wasn't just respect. It was something else. I remember a few weeks back, I cracked some dumb joke while we were watching TV. Something silly, something I'd have said 100 times before. But instead of laughing, she gave me this look, like I'd done something awkward, like I'd fumbled in front of guests. Then she grabbed her phone. A few seconds later, I heard the soft whoosh of a text being sent, and she smiled, just a little. Not at me. Not with me. That's when I knew. I didn't want to believe it then. Hell, I still don't know what I believe. But I knew enough not to walk through our front door that night. So, I drove here instead, parked, and waited. It was around 7:30 when I saw the first familiar face step out of a rideshare. Tara, one of Elisa's co-workers, hit the sidewalk in heels too tall for this weather and checked her phone like she was reading a map. 2 others followed. One of them glanced toward my car but didn't seem to register me. They laughed, linked arms, and headed for the bar. I could hear the music faintly now, some trendy acoustic cover drifting through the speakers. From where I sat, I had a clear view of the entrance, but I couldn't see inside, just the shapes of people moving past the windows. I leaned back and stared at the car's ceiling. The fabric was fraying near the dome light. It reminded me of the time Elise and I road tripped to Taos and got stranded with a flat tire. We waited for AAA in 105-degree heat, and she kept making up stories about the lizards on the rocks. She made me laugh so hard I almost forgot how miserable we were. That version of us felt like it belonged to someone else. Now, I didn't come here to catch her in the act. I didn't want some cinematic moment where I storm in, yell, and make a scene. That's not me. And even if it was, I knew it wouldn't fix anything. I wasn't looking for proof. I was looking for permission. Permission to finally believe what I already knew. A couple more people trickled into the bar. Someone held the door open long enough for me to catch a glimpse inside. Dim lighting, brick walls, rows of wine bottles. Then I saw her. Elise. She was at the bar, holding a glass of red wine, wearing a dress I'd never seen before, emerald with an open back. Her hair was curled, like she used to wear it when we were dating. I almost didn't recognize her. Not because she looked different, but because she looked alive. Next to her, chuckling at something she said, was a guy in a charcoal button-up, sleeves rolled just so. He leaned in as she spoke, and she touched his arm lightly, like it was second nature, like they'd done it 100 times before. I didn't know if that was Elliot, but I knew it didn't matter. I stayed in the car a little longer, watching. The music shifted. The laughter grew louder. Somewhere inside, she raised her glass in a toast, and I realized she was already gone. The decision to go inside wasn't deliberate. I just found myself stepping out of the car, my shoes hitting the wet pavement with a dull thud. I hadn't planned this. I wasn't even sure what I was doing until I reached the alley behind the bar and saw the side entrance. An old kitchen door I remembered from the soft opening years ago. Elise had invited me back then, proud to show off the hip spot where her agency had done the branding. I helped her hang lights on the terrace. She kissed me in the stockroom that night. I remember thinking, this is our life now. It's good, that memory stung as I slipped through the door. I moved quietly through the narrow hallway, past racks of glassware and a server balancing a tray of charcuterie boards. No one stopped me. No one even noticed me. It was like I'd shed something on my way in, my name, my presence, my weight. The main room pulsed with energy. The party was in full swing now. Voices layered over each other, glasses clinked, a curated Spotify playlist bounced off exposed brick. The kind of chaos that feels intimate from the inside but suffocating from the edge. I stood by the entrance, just out of sight, tucked near a hanging plant and a shelf of wine bottles arranged like awards. And there she was, Elise. She stood at the heart of the room, like it had been built around her. Her emerald dress caught the light every time she turned, her hair gleaming in soft waves. She was laughing, really laughing. Except it wasn't the laugh I knew. It was something sharper, more refined, like it had been polished to fit a mold. The people around her ate it up. She tossed her head back and sipped her wine. And then there was him. Elliot. I knew it was him the moment I saw him. It wasn't just the way he looked at her. It was the way he didn't look anywhere else. Like the room was static and she was the signal. He wasn't touching her, not exactly, but he was with her. You could see it in the way his body angled toward hers, the ease with which he stepped in when someone new joined the group, always staying close. Her hand grazed his arm when she laughed. He leaned in to say something near her ear. And then he said something that made her laugh harder than I'd heard her laugh in weeks. It felt like watching a painting come to life, only I wasn't in the frame. I stood there for a long time, unnoticed. People moved around me, laughed, spilled wine, told stories I wasn't part of. I caught fragments, congrats on the launch. We pulled it off. Big things coming, everyone seemed lifted by the glow of success. It should have been her moment. My instinct should have been pride, support. But all I felt was small, unmoored. At one point, her eyes scanned the room and landed on me. She froze, just for a moment. A flicker, half a second, where her smile wavered. Recognition, a spark of something, but then it passed. She looked right past me, turned her face back toward Elliot, and kept laughing, like I was a shadow she'd already learned to ignore. And that did something to me. Not anger, not even heartbreak, just this dull, bone-deep clarity. I wasn't being cheated on, not in the usual sense. I was being replaced. Not violently, not dramatically, but cleanly, surgically, as if she'd quietly rewritten her script and left me out of the new draft. I didn't belong in her version of tonight. She had erased me in real time. I stayed a few more minutes, watching her from the edge of the room like a ghost at his own funeral. Everyone else moved like dancers in a routine I no longer knew the steps to. I'd become the background, a forgotten name on an old guest list. I don't know how long I stood there. Eventually, I turned and walked back the way I came, past the kitchen, past the server who still didn't notice me, out the side door. The air outside was cooler now, the rain threatening to return. I didn't go back to the car right away. I walked, one foot in front of the other, not really thinking, just putting distance between me and whatever that place had become. I ended up on the bridge, the old one with the rusted guardrails and cracked sidewalk, the one that crosses the lake where people kayak and take engagement photos. There was no one else there, just me, and the wind and the distant sound of tires hissing over wet asphalt. I leaned on the rail and looked down at the water. Streetlights cast fractured reflections on the surface, breaking every time the wind stirred. And I thought, this isn't a breakup. This is disassembly. A slow, deliberate dismantling of a life. Brick by brick, smile by smile, she hadn't fallen out of love. She'd stepped out, like someone leaving a meeting early, polite and quiet, without wanting to disturb the room. And I'd been standing in that empty room for weeks. She was done. She just hadn't told me yet. I walked the bridge until the city lights faded behind me and the sky opened into a deeper kind of black. The water below didn't offer answers, just soft ripples and silence. I thought maybe if I stayed long enough, something would click. It didn't. But something did settle in me. Not peace, not yet, but wait. I wasn't going to confront her. Not tonight. Not in that bar, not with those people around. She'd already rewritten the story. I wasn't going to be the bitter, jealous husband who crashed the celebration like a fool. She wanted clean lines, smooth transitions. She wanted to pivot without friction. And that's when I realized I didn't have to scream to make noise. I could let the silence do the talking. By the time I walked back to the car, my shirt was damp with sweat and the last of the rain. I didn't bother wiping down the windshield before driving. The wipers dragged streaks across the glass, and the city blurred as I pulled away. I didn't know where to go, so I drove in circles for a while. Past the 24-hour diner we used to hit after movies, past the park where she first said she loved me. Each spot hit like a flashbang. It's surreal how fast a city can turn into a graveyard for someone who's still breathing. Eventually, I pointed the car home. She'd always hated the word home. Said it felt too fixed, too final. She preferred our place, something that could shift, evolve. Now I saw it for what it was, another soft way to keep me off balance, another placeholder until she found her next upgrade. When I walked in, the place was dark, just a single light on in the hallway. The kind we left on for vibe, but also because Elise said total darkness felt too absolute. The living room looked untouched. Pillows perfectly fluffed, candles unlit, that ridiculous glass jar full of polished river stones she insisted added harmony. The only thing that felt out of place was me. She was in the bedroom. I could hear the steady hum of the white noise machine she used to block out traffic. Or me, maybe. I stood in the doorway for a while. She was lying on her side, the blanket pulled up to her shoulder, her back to me. I couldn't tell if she was actually asleep or just pretending really well. Either way, she didn't move. I didn't say a word, just changed clothes, brushed my teeth like a phantom, and lay down on the very edge of the bed. The space between us was colder than the room. In the darkness, I replayed it all. Not just the bar, but everything leading up to it. The hesitations, the excuses, the new passwords, the distance, all the warning signs I'd tried to ignore. I used to think love meant assuming the best, giving the benefit of the doubt. Now I realized love like that was just a slow kind of erasure. I didn't sleep. By morning, she was already up and dressed for Pilates, because of course she was. She moved around the bedroom like it was any other Tuesday. No mention of the night before. No hint of surprise that I was home early. If anything, she looked relieved, like the worst part, getting caught, had passed, and now she could ease into the soft landing she'd planned. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "I'll be back in an hour. Want me to grab you a smoothie?" Like we were just two people passing in an airport. I nodded, mute. She smiled and walked out, her mat under her arm like a shield she didn't even need to use. Once the door clicked shut, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't from rage. It was restraint. I'd always thought if I were ever betrayed like this, I'd lose it, flip the table, burn it all down. But now that it was happening, all I felt was the clarity of no more. No more giving her space to play innocent. No more waiting for her to tell me the truth. No more pretending I didn't know. I walked to the living room, still in my sleep clothes, and sat on the couch. The cushions felt firmer than usual, like even the furniture knew something had shifted. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't touch my phone, just sat there, letting the stillness settle. Eventually, I opened my laptop. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Maybe something to confirm what I already felt in my bones. I remembered something from months ago, when we were setting up the Wi-Fi in the new place. She'd logged into an email I didn't recognize, one she brushed off as, just for subscriptions. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Now it felt like a clue. It didn't take long to get into it. She used the same few password variations for everything. Inside were folders, organized, labeled, methodical. But one stood out, New Me. Just one document inside. I clicked on it, and everything stopped. It wasn't a diary. It wasn't an email draft. It was a plan. Exit plan phase script. Bullet points, timelines, notes. Asterisk emotionally detaching. Repositioning socially. Constructing a mutual narrative. Preparing friends. Ensuring I wouldn't see it coming. Asterisk hell, there was even a section about how to eventually introduce a new relationship after appropriate time to allow James to process. I sat back in the chair and let it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't even cold. This was strategy. This was branding. I wasn't being left. I was being phased out. And all I'd done all night was stand still while she painted me invisible. The cursor blinked at the top of the document like it was taunting me to keep reading. Exit plan phase script. I scrolled slowly, reading each section like I was peeling back skin from something decayed. It started clinical, almost courteous, a tone you'd expect from a project proposal, not the slow unraveling of a relationship. Each phase was laid out with headers, bullet points, and dates. It began months ago. Begin emotional withdrawal was the first line. Under it, asterisk limit affectionate gestures, reduce shared routines, increase independence. Asterisk I remembered when it started, around the holidays. She said she wanted to recenter, that the chaos of life had worn her down. I bought her a spa weekend. She came back radiant, not from rest, but from freedom. And now I knew that weekend was on the timeline. She didn't recenter. She rehearsed. The next phase, control the narrative. This one read like a checklist of silent exits. Asterisk introduce conflict, not too much, just enough. Subtle disagreements over nothing. Comments that can be reframed later as incompatibility, asterisk I thought the little fights were just stress. Turns out they were scaffolding for the lie she was building. Asterisk cultivate external validation. Build personal brand, asterisk that explained the sudden spike in Instagram posts, the new fitness journey, the quotes about boundaries, renewal, and self-prioritization. She wasn't just reinventing herself. She was repackaging herself for an audience, one that wouldn't question why her husband vanished from the frame. The final phase chilled me, graceful separation. Asterisk position as mutual. Ensure emotional neutrality in communication. Do not engage in blame. Begin post-transition identity reinforcement, asterisk she'd planned to leave me like she was archiving a project folder, tidy, professional, efficient. And the worst part? It was working. I sat there for a long time, rereading her plan until my coffee went cold and my jaw ached from clenching it. It didn't feel real. Not in the dramatic way you see in movies. It was too real. Quietly crushing, like someone pulling the rug out from under you inch by inch, so you don't even feel the fall. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even stand. I just opened a new tab and started building a folder of my own. It started with screenshots of her calendar, where I could see blocked out Pilates sessions that lined up suspiciously with Elliot's own event RSVPs. I knew where to look because of the folder names in her email. One was labeled Team Projects, and inside were shared Google Docs, some real, some decoys. Buried within was a private Google Calendar invite titled simply Backup Location June. I didn't know what that meant, but I noted it. Then came the photos. I dug through our cloud backups and found images from months ago. A rooftop party she'd gone to while I was traveling. She said it was just the team. But in one shot, half obscured by a cocktail glass, was Elliot's unmistakable grin, his hand resting casually on the back of her chair, and she was leaning into it. I remembered calling her that night. She answered, breathless and distracted, said the music was too loud. I could barely hear her. I told her I missed her. She said, me, too. But it came out flat, robotic. That night was marked on her plan, Phase 2, reduce emotional engagement. She'd checked it off like a task. A few days later, I found something unexpected. An old tablet we hadn't used in over a year. It still had her login saved. I knew I shouldn't look, but I'd already crossed that line the second she drafted an exit plan while sleeping next to me. Inside were fragments of chats, bits of messages between her and Elliot. Most were vague, just enough to keep up appearances. But one thread caught my eye, from 2 months back. Elliot, once June hits, everything changes, Elise, asterisk I know. I'm ready. Just have to finish the transition, asterisk I felt sick. She wasn't torn. She wasn't confused. She was orchestrating, coordinating the optics, the timeline, even the emotional fallout. It was her brand strategy, and I was just collateral. That's when I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed someone else to see it, to confirm I wasn't losing it, that this wasn't just a marriage crumbling. This was a full-scale renovation with me quietly demolished from the foundation. So, I called Lauren, her older sister, the one Elise always said was too critical. I sent her the PDF. No commentary, no context, just the file, titled Read This. She called back 10 minutes later. I didn't even say hello. James, she said, her voice low, trembling slightly. I've seen this before. What do you mean? She did this with her last relationship. The same thing, same steps. She told me it was how she protects her peace. I thought she was just being dramatic. I didn't know she kept it organized like this. There was a silence on the line. Then Lauren said the words I wasn't ready for, I think she genuinely believes this is kind. That hit harder than the plan itself because it was true. Elise would walk away thinking she'd done me a favor, granted me a smooth exit, spared me the mess. I thanked Lauren and hung up. Then I sent the file again, this time to Elise's parents. Again, no explanation, just the truth. Let her deal with the fallout on her end. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to sabotage her. I was going to let her script speak for itself. I didn't expect a reply. But the next morning, her father called me. Quiet man, reserved. I'd always respected him. He only said 5 words before hanging up, I didn't raise her like this. That's when I knew I wasn't alone in this. And I wasn't crazy. She'd built an exit. But I'd found the blueprint. And now her clean break had a fracture. It didn't take long for her version to go public. She posted a pastel-colored quote card, something vague about growth, alignment, honoring separate paths. A few friends reposted it. I didn't respond. Instead, I uploaded a clip from a dinner party months back. Her laughing to a friend, asterisk if you're smart, you control the breakup. People believe what you show them, asterisk I didn't need commentary. Her curated image, feminist guru, wellness advocate, master of boundaries, collapsed on impact. Comments turned. Followers vanished. One of her sponsors quietly pulled out. By morning, her account was gone. No drama, just gone. She'd lost control of the narrative. The silence I'd given her had become louder than anything she could post. I moved out, left the apartment, the furniture, the life she designed like a showroom. Even the espresso machine I bought her for our anniversary. I left it all. At first, I kept reaching for her snacks at the store, grabbed 2 coffee cups instead of 1. But the silence started to stretch, not like a void, but like space. Space to breathe, to feel real. I started therapy, not for answers, just to hear my own voice again. One morning, she texted me. No punctuation, just, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I knew what she was sorry for. The story fell apart, not because it was fake, but because I'd stopped playing my part. And that's what saved me. Not revenge, not exposure, but truth. Silence. Stillness. I stopped disappearing for her and started existing for myself.